This week's episode of You Like That podcast, the Vikings take a win in Chicago at Soldier Field against the Bears. We'll also recap the NFL Week 15 as well as preview Week 16. And then we'll end it with a Rams-Vikings preview. Home game at US Bank Stadium this weekend. Big for the Vikings playoff hopes if they can come away with this one.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of You Like That podcast. I'm Jackson.
And I'm Matt. And the Vikings put one in the win column Monday night against the Chicago Bears. As a fan, and if you didn't watch the game, I would tell you just to look at the win column rather than what actually happened in that game, because it was one of the worst games I've seen all season. But at this point in the year, when you're fighting for a playoff spot, sometimes the win is all that matters. You just survive and advance to the next week, because this is the game the Vikings needed to win. And even though it didn't go exactly the way we wanted it to, we still came away with that most important piece. So the Vikings moved to 7-7, 500 on the season, 3 weeks remaining till the end of the NFL regular season.
Yeah, I mean, it was a very, very boring and ugly game to watch. That's for sure. And then on the other TV, it was a horrible, wild loss to end before Christmas break as well. So at least the Vikings got the win. That's always good. And yeah, I mean, it's a big game. This next game, the Bears are really, really bad. So it's just, you got to wonder if
I feel like, so obviously the game was incredibly chippy from the start. Nagy got a penalty in, I believe, the first quarter for screaming at the refs. Must have said something to them. The players were basically fighting each other the whole game. I feel like that goes that way every time we play against the Bears. I feel like our chippiest games of the year always come against Chicago. Is that just something that maybe I'm just thinking, or I just feel like every time we play Chicago, there's always some sort of fight?
It's the game that Dalvin Cook always gets into it with Akeem Hook.
Akeem Hicks.
It's got to be Dalvin Cook's arch nemesis for sure. He just they hate each other. I don't know if it's just a lot of respect towards each other, but they just hate each other. I don't know. But yeah, they hate each other, and that leads to, other guys getting into it. So yeah, I mean, I think the Bears Vikings rivalry is heating up, because I mean we're more competing for second place every year than first place. So it's hard to have a rivalry with a team that gets first place in the division every year in the Packers.
Yeah, it was definitely like very heated after plays, shoving going on. The refs called a lot of penalties in this game. I thought for the most part, they kind of screwed over the Bears in that aspect. A lot of bad penalties, a lot of fair penalties on the Bears, but a lot of also bad penalties were called on the Bears. At one point, I even had sympathy for them because the refs were getting so out of hand with these penalties. But as the game kept going on, it kept getting even more chippier. Rookie Tevin Jenkins for the Bears threw a punch, didn't get ejected for it, which I was very surprised. And however, Eric Kendricks did get ejected for a hit he tried to pull up on, but we'll touch on that in a little bit. We start always with the Vikings offense, reviewing both sides of the ball. I was trying to think of positives. I really was. I don't know if I have one. I really don't. When you put up 17 points on the Bears with a practice squad secondary, they had one healthy corner due to everyone else being on the COVID list. When you put up 17 points against the Bears, that's that depleted, and they turned the ball over 3 times. I just don't know how you can take too many positives away from that.
Yeah, I mean, Justin Jefferson obviously would be the only thing that comes to mind when thinking of positives, just because.
But even like he had like slow games in terms of Justin Jefferson standards.
Yeah, I guess.
But I mean that was a lot due to them just doubling him, because obviously Adam didn't play and KJ was out there, but our third wide receiver in this game was Amir Smith-Marset, who's barely gotten any snaps on the season. So Justin Jefferson obviously commanded a lot of the defense's attention, especially when they're able to stop the run. But like even Justin, for Justin's standards, didn't have like a great game.
Yeah, the other thing I could think of is just Amir Smith-Marset getting his first NFL touchdown. But yeah, not too many other positives. I mean, quite a bit of negatives. Kirk's again didn't have the best game. It seems like it's been a theme the last couple weeks, but yeah, I mean the offensive line again was bad. Mason Cole had his first bad game as a Viking.
Ooh, he got
ran over.
destroyed.
Yeah, and it gets even tougher this next week, pass rush wise.
Yeah, you mentioned Mason Cole. Akeem Hicks. I feel like Akeem Hicks, out of every game we play in any season, I feel like Akeem Hicks has more of an impact on any of these games in the past like 5 years than any player that's ever played the Vikings. Like it seems like he can single-handedly blow up our offense every time they play us. And they were without Khalil Mack on Monday night, but it didn't seem to matter. Akeem Hicks had his way with us. The offensive line played bad, and I think that played a huge factor in Kirk Cousins playing bad. Watching him for a few years now, we know that he struggles with pressure, especially interior pressure. So that got to him early, and I just think he was kind of in his own head, flustered about it. Didn't really know. I think he had a 50% completion percentage on the night, 12 for 24. He threw for 86 yards, which I believe is a career low for him. Not a great night for Kirk, and I think a lot of that be attributed to the offensive line not playing well. And when that happens, Kirk just kind of falls apart.
Yeah, for sure, and that also didn't help Dalvin Cook's run game as well either. He played not his best game, especially after coming off of a 200 plus yard rushing game. He definitely didn't play his best game, like I said. But also, it just showed this last week really showed how kind of thin we are in the wide receiver room. Really, we kind of knew that. KJ Osborne had a couple good weeks, and he had a good catch last week. It's just he's not a top 3 wide receiver. I don't think, maybe number 3, but he's definitely not number 2. And that shows this last week. I mean, you can double Justin Jefferson pretty easily.
Yeah, it felt like a lot of the sacks Kirk took were not even necessarily that quickly. Like he was scanning the field, and it just I didn't see the all 22 of these plays, but it just seemed like he wasn't finding anyone open. And that's an issue. Like when you got your number 1 wide receiver, when they're committing a double team to him, you have to win as a number 2 receiver or number 3 receiver because you're going to have better matchups. That did not happen. KJ had 3 catches, but outside of him, Conklin had 1 catch. Amir Smith-Marset had 1 catch. CJ Ham had 1 catch. Dalvin Cook had 2 catches. So like that outside, yeah, there's really no one that had any catches in this game. And you just gotta step up. We've been high in KJ all season, and he's had a great year up to this point. And he stepped up with a big catch last week, but KJ still needs to show us especially with Adam Thielen getting older. KJ needs to show us that he can eventually step into that number 2 receiver role and be consistent there.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, the offense wasn't great in the win, but again, it was a win. So, and I mean, the last thing is just play calling, but we're so used to bad play calling that it's just repetitive every week. But yeah, I mean, it was bad again on offense, and that's definitely concerning. I don't know if it's just playing down to the competitor like usual, or it's something to be concerned about going into maybe a playoff game. But yeah, let's go right into the defense. Defense played much better. I mean, it wasn't a great Bears offense. Justin Fields just is not good this year. It's as simple as that. But yeah, I mean, a big positive was DJ Wanham. He got in there. I believe he played like a fourth string tackle, unless that was the other side. But still, I mean,
I think he was. I think he was on Tevin Jenkins for a lot of the game, but I also think he switched sides.
okay. But yeah, he had 3 sacks. And
Yeah.
we've harped on DJ Wanham a lot this year just for not being very good. But he showed up sometimes in through games. It doesn't come consistently, but it there's spurts of potential, that's for sure.
Yeah, yeah. You mentioned consistency there. He's definitely not consistent yet, but I mean, he's young. He's struggled in the run game this season, but this is by far the best game of DJ Wannen's career. 3 sacks is huge, especially for a young player like that, stepping into a role that is vacated by Daniel Hunter and Everson due to the injuries and Everson's situation. But DJ, I was so impressed with his speed, his closing speed on Justin Fields. Justin Fields would escape the pocket, and it looked like he would have running room or at least time outside the pocket to try to find someone open. And DJ closed those gaps so quick with how fast he is. It was impressive. He's easily our fastest defensive end. And that showed on the field, and it helped kind of limit Justin in what he could do outside the pocket and what he could do with his legs on Monday.
Quick news. It looks like the LA Rams have activated Cam Akers just in time for the Vikings. I'm sure he won't play very much, but if that does in fact mean he'll play at all, but still wonderful timing.
That's crazy.
To us. But yeah, DJ. Yeah, I mean he showed up in some big moments, that's for sure. But the other thing is just to kind of go along with that, being the quick and Justin Fields just did not run really at all, and that's what he's been successful at this year. When he's played at his best and feel more confident, he's on the move like a young rookie Lamar Jackson kind of thing. He's more comfortable running right now than he is throwing, and we didn't really allow him to get really going on the run game.
Yeah, he had, I think, 30 yards rushing in this one. He tried to more, but like I said, it just kind of closed up. People were able to keep contain and at least pursue him a little bit better than we did in, per se, the Arizona game, where Kyler Murray just kind of escaped and was able to extend plays in that way. Justin really wasn't allowed to do that. Granted, Justin and Kyler are completely different skill levels of quarterbacks at this point of their careers. Justin has struggled his rookie season for the most part, so we don't really know what he's going to be yet. But Justin running, we held him in that way held him with his legs, and then our run defense, we got everyone back. We got everyone back last week with Michael Pierce, Dalvin Tomlinson, Anthony Barr, Eric Kendricks. All these guys are back. So we expected improvement in the run D because Dalvin Tomlinson and Michael Pierce are our biggest contributors in that area. And they came through. I think David Montgomery averaged like 4.5 yards a carry or something, which isn't fantastic, but he only rushed for 48 yards. And for the most part, Michael Pierce was dominant in moving his offensive lineman like he always is. He's such a fun player to watch. And I think that position, that player, the Linval Joseph of the team, the Michael Pierce of the team, the Pat Williams of the team, those players are so important to our defenses in stopping the run that it's good. It's good to have him back, especially if we're trying to make a push for a playoff spot here.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and the other thing is the run defense was very good on Monday. But so is the turnover defense. I mean, we had, I think, 2 turnovers, I believe.
If you count the punt fumble, I think that counts as a turnover. 3. Their special teams fumble. Justin Fields fumbled. Dave Montgomery fumbled.
So that's just a huge improvement to what they have been the last couple of weeks. But with positives, there always is negatives, and a big negative was just Eric Kendricks getting booted for really a penalty or a hit that he could get penalized for, but he doesn't need to be booted for it. It was just kind of bizarre how it was almost like a makeup call how they kicked Eric Kendricks out. It was weird.
Yeah, I mean, it looked bad, like the replay, but because he it kind of looked like he launched himself into Justin Fields' head a little bit, but you could tell he was not trying to launch himself. He was trying to get himself over Justin, so he didn't hit him. It just didn't work that way. But I mean, Eric got kicked. He probably shouldn't have got kicked. Thankfully, that didn't really affect us because the Bears' offense was so bad. But yeah, those things happen. They've happened to us before. Harrison Smith's gotten kicked out of games a few times for things like this. That's something you can control. When Justin Fields slides late like that, keeps his head up, it's hard for a defender to pull off already when they're going for the tackle. It's just your body momentum doesn't work like that, and it tends to get defenders in trouble sometimes, which we saw there, which is just unfortunate. I'm just glad it happened in a game against the Bears rather than a game that meant more or was closer.
Yeah, for sure. It was just bizarre. There was not one person that thought he should be booted though.
He should not have been kicked. I was very surprised when they threw him out.
Yeah, and then the other thing was the defense, though they did not give up too many touchdowns, they did give up a lot of red zone chances for the Bears. They were in the red zone for 5 minutes. I mean, they had the ball a long time in that game.
The Bears, actually, if you look at the stats in this game, the Bears completely destroyed us. And looking at total yards, the Bears had 370 total yards. We had 193. So we had about half of the total yards that the Bears had. Their yards per play was 5.5. Ours was barely over 3. The Bears, even though this wasn't a close game in favor of us, the Bears should have won this game, and that's due to how many times they got in the red zone. They got in the red zone 5 times, and they only scored 9 points in the game. I don't even know how that's possible. The Bears just continued to fuck up, and I mean the box score will say the Vikings defense played extremely well. I don't think that was the case.
Yeah. I don't really know what else to add there. It's just this last performance, they had the ball. I mean, the time possession and everything. It was just dominance. But I mean, they didn't look good by the eye test. They didn't look too good. The Bears, I'm talking about. The Bears offense, it's just struggled all year, and it's just the thing that this game made me think of was, are the Bears and the Vikings and the Lions all going to be in a rebuild, and the Packers is the NFC North all going to be in a rebuild / retool in the next 5 years?
Someone will decide not to because of the fact that the Packers are likely entering a rebuild for the first time in like 40 seasons. If you want to win the division, you probably not want to go into a rebuild the time and the rest of your division is looking like they're taking the same path. We mentioned Akeem Hicks earlier in the show, but I don't know if you saw the quote. Someone asked him about him playing well right now, and he said, I need to like, I don't know the exact quote, but I need to leave Chicago like in a good way. Like he's gone after the season. He's playing great football, but he's not going to be in Chicago anymore, which is some of the greatest news that I've ever heard. But yeah, rebuild. It's a possibility for a lot of teams. Our Lions are already in it. Bears are looking to go that way, firing their coach and with Justin Fields being their starting quarterback. And then depending on the Rodgers situation this offseason, the Packers are going to might have a new starting quarterback in Jordan Love next season. So it's a time in the NFC North where it's about to be wide open, assuming Rodgers leaves, which he probably won't because that's just what happens. But I'm excited to see where this division goes because it's kind of been sitting the same way for a while.
Yeah, for sure. That concludes our recap of that Monday night game in Chicago. Next week we'll get into the next week game, but we got the Rams coming up. But let's get into the week 15 games. Let's recap some of these games last week. It was a horrible week of football. I think it was the fewest touchdowns on a Sunday in week 15. I don't know the exact stat, but for a really long time, it was not a good, high scoring, entertaining week. But let's start it off with the Chiefs versus the Chargers. That was an entertaining game.
So if you play fantasy football, you were lucky if your team scored over 100 points this week with how bad offenses were and how few of touchdowns there were in the NFL this week. But if you did do well, if you did score over 100 points, the chances are you had someone on the Kansas City Chiefs because this game was easily the best of the week, happened on Thursday night. The Chiefs surge back at the end of the game, send it to overtime, and then they get the ball and drive straight down the field and score. Divisional matchup here, two teams fighting for a playoff spot, high-powered offenses. It's what the game is moving towards. It's what people like to watch, and it definitely didn't disappoint. The Chiefs, after starting 3-4, I think was the record, and they were playing bad, but I don't think anyone was counting them out, knowing how talented they were. They have now become the number 1 seed in the AFC with the Patriots loss. So Kansas City, even after a horrible start to the season, made it to the number 1 seed.
Yeah, I don't think there was any doubt with that either. Too much, at least, not from anybody outside of the division. But yeah, it was a very exciting game. Moving on to the Patriots versus the Colts. The Colts run through Jonathan Taylor, kind of like the Titans have ran through Derrick Henry. It's a very similar situation, maybe with a little better team in the Colts offensively. That's still to be determined, but the Colts did beat the Patriots. The Patriots are not unstoppable. This is where they could just sneak into the playoffs and then dominate in the playoffs. You never know, but
yeah, the Colts look very, very good. And it's not Carson Wentz that's looking good because he tried to throw in that game, but he thankfully did not. Their defense, Darius Leonard is incredible. Darius Leonard is one of the best players I've seen at linebacker ever. Like, he is so good. He consistently forces turnovers, whether it's his peanut punch or intercepting the ball. He's just so active on the defensive side of the ball, forcing turnovers. They're a fun team to watch, even though they don't throw the ball quite very well. Jonathan Taylor should be in the conversation for MVP, even though he won't be because it's a quarterback award now. But the Colts are playing their best football right now, especially beating the Patriots. They're a team that I'm hopping on the bandwagon of because I really enjoy watching them play.
Yeah, for sure. I was hoping that the Colts would be good last year and this year. They started off so bad. It was kind of curious, but they've gotten stuff together. Their defense is as good as they've been rebuilding it to be. The management and coach have done a great job with this team.
I just hope Frank Reich.
Yeah, me too. I just hope that Carson Wentz doesn't throw away their season somehow. I don't know. I haven't liked what I've seen with him too much this year. I just hope that he doesn't ruin the team. And the thing about Frank Reich, it's crazy to think that he was responsible for the weirdest and worst trick play of all time, and now he's still with the Colts, and he's a pretty good coach. It's kind of weird to think, but yeah, Colts beat up on the Patriots. Patriots are not the best team in the AFC anymore. Panthers versus Bills. Cam Newton is not very good anymore, and yeah, it's kind of sad to see. It's like seeing it's like if Michael Jordan came back.
Michael Jordan on the Wizards.
Yeah,
Michael Jordan did come back.
Yeah, pretty much. It's hard to watch.
Yeah, he's terrible. I mean, he never used to be able to throw very well. He had a strong arm, but had his accuracy issues. Now he just can't really run, and he has his accuracy issues. Like he said before he was on the team that he There's no way he's not a top 32 quarterback in this league. He's not a top 32 quarterback in this league. Like when you're rotating quarterbacks in an NFL football game, you have an issue. The Panthers have just completely fallen apart. I wouldn't be surprised if Matt Rule is actually fired after the season, even though they started like 4-0.
Yeah. Yeah. Cam Newton, yeah. I mean, it's the Panthers. I don't know what they're going to do. It's probably going to be Sam Darnold, at least for a year or two until they give up on him now. I don't know what's going to go on with the Panthers.
I don't see the Sam Darnold experiment lasting longer than next year. Unfortunately for them, there's no quarterbacks in this draft. Eventually, some will probably get way overdrafted. Panthers might be one of those teams to do that, but yeah, they just don't really have a option there right now, and that's not a good spot to be. We know that all too well as Vikings fans, not having a franchise quarterback. But yeah, I mean the Panthers have to. We'll see what happens with the Deshaun Watson situation this offseason.
But yeah, the Bills come out on top and continue to stay in that upper wild card spot. But man, the Bills are not what they're being what I've always said they were, that they never were. It's Josh Allen doesn't look as good as he did last year. It's just like a sophomore slump, even though, I mean, it's kind of weird to say, but it's kind of like they were on top of the world last year and they come back to earth this year. But yeah, Stephon Diggs has he disappeared this year. So you got to wonder, when do the tweets start coming? But moving on to the Jags versus the Texans, worst game of the week, maybe. But yeah, the Texans come out, they dominate. And yeah, the Jags are still very, very bad.
The Jags are trash. The season has been thrown away. At this point, you got to just lose your last three because you had the number one pick. The Lions won. So the Jags moved down to the worst team in the league. You have the number one pick in your hands. Don't get rid of it. I mean, it's not as valuable as a normal number one pick, but still, you have your option of anyone in the draft. You'll take it, especially with how lost this season is. Trevor Lawrence looks bad. It's when you lose to the Texans by multiple scores, you have an issue. Hopefully they can iron out some of those issues this offseason, but I don't see it happening this year.
Yeah, they got to find a new coach, and honestly, like firing Urban Meyer could come back and bite them in the butt just financially. So they might have to be stuck with the coach that they have right now. I can't remember his name. I just know he's a former Vikings offensive lineman.
Darrell Bevel.
Yeah, he's a former Vikings player, so that's kind of cool. So I can see them sticking with him for at least a year until financially it makes sense to go out and hire another probably big name coach, or maybe or maybe this guy he's turned out to be a decent coach.
Not a chance in hell there. Bevel turns out to be a decent coach.
I mean, there's some people out there who think that he could definitely be a head coach in this league and former teammates of his, but
yeah, I mean, Darrell Bevel was the offensive coordinator for the Jags this year. He was offensive coordinator for the Lions for a couple years before that. I think he was the offensive coordinator for us, and we hated him. I just don't know. I guess if people are behind him, they maybe know better than me, but I feel like he just hasn't had success anywhere he's been.
Yeah. Moving on to the Titans versus the Steelers. Titans, it's just not the same offense without Derrick Henry, who it's sounding like they could possibly get back maybe next week. I don't think it's going to happen, but maybe for a playoff push. But yeah, the Titans still are into the playoffs, so I just don't know. They really need Derrick Henry to have a chance, it seems like.
Yeah, they are terrible. They're one of the you don't normally say about a playoff team that they're hard to watch. The Titans are hard to watch right now. That A.J. Brown's coming back this week, which is very big for them. But without Derrick Henry and A.J. Brown and Julio Jones, they just don't move the ball. They played the Steelers defense, and we saw the Steelers defense against us. They were terrible. They couldn't stop the run. they couldn't do anything. And they held the Titans to like 13 points. It was very bad. The Titans need to figure it out because right now they're sitting at 9-5, I believe. Yeah, they're sitting at 9-5, and they're at risk of, if they lose their next couple games, they're at risk of not making the playoffs.
I mean, yeah, it's totally possible. It's a crazy race this year, NFC and AFC. NFC, I wouldn't say in a good way. It's a race.
Everyone's just bad.
Yeah, but yeah, Steelers are still in the playoff race as well, and they're just not good. There's no really good teams this year. Maybe the team that we're going to talk about next, but they lost the Lions as well. The Cardinals versus the Lions. The Cardinals you could say they kind of got destroyed by maybe the worst roster in the last decade. I think the Lions may have found a couple things in this game. I think the Lions may have found their coach, maybe. I mean, he has a horrible roster, and he beats a really good team in the Cardinals, probably the best team in the NFC. He at least brings energy. I'm not sure strategically he's the best coach, but
he needs someone. We've saw how he manages the game this year, and that's been the area where Dan Campbell's probably been scrutinized the most, is bad timeouts, bad decision making. But you can't question the love that his players have for him, seeing these post-game speeches and everyone jumping all over him, and him like basically being in tears after they won. And the players love him. And that's like the biggest piece of being a head coach in the NFL. Your team has to buy in. If your team doesn't buy in, you're going to suck. So he has the most important thing down. His team has bought into him as a coach. Next, they just need to build the roster. Like you said, they're the worst roster in the NFL. They need to build the roster. They need to commit to this rebuild and get some more talent on their team. And if these players continue to play for Dan Campbell, like very rarely do you see a team that's this like united when they're this bad. But that's the Lions right now. They look like they're having fun, even though they have 2 wins on the season. And that's a lot of credit to Dan Campbell.
Yeah. It just brings you back to like that week, that first press conference he had. Everybody was making fun of him. Everybody was saying he's gimmicky. Yeah, I mean, he's got a lot of character. He's got a lot of emotion. Got a lot of passion. And sometimes that can work for a team. The Lions have a lot of work to do on their roster too. So yeah, but yeah, the Lions, they get another win. The Cardinals, I don't really know what happened to the Cardinals. They kind of got bit. It was a trap game, and they kind of got bit by the Lions. I'm not sure they're going to be a bad team going forward. I don't think. The next game could argue to be the worst game of the week. The Jets versus the Dolphins.
That's disrespectful. That's disrespectful right there.
The Jets versus the Dolphins. The Dolphins have won their 6th straight. You show me those 6 teams playing anybody else, I don't know. But yeah, the Dolphins have gone from 1-7 to 7-7. That's respectful. That's definitely respectful.
Yeah, the Dolphins. You could argue they're bad. You could argue they're average. I don't think you can argue they're good. But they have now gotten to 500. They play a really big game for the Vikings this week. They play the New Orleans Saints, who are tied with us record-wise on Monday Night Football. So definitely tune into that and root for Miami. But they have definitely played better football. Their defense is solid. Their offense is below average, but they're definitely not the 1-7 team that they started as. They beat the Jets. That's nothing to be excited about. The Jets obviously have thrown in the towel for this season. Zach Wilson has looked awful. He has looked very, very bad. I'm scared for the Jets because they miss on every single quarterback, and I thought Zach Wilson was going to be the guy. He's got to make some major improvements if he's going to be the guy.
Yeah. I love Brian Flores. And I liked him a lot last year and what he's done with the Dolphins. So if they can finally beat like a decent team, I'll start believing in them more. But yeah, hey, they have the same record as the Vikings, so you can't really say much bad about them.
Okay, their last, this is actually kind of insane. Their wins have come from, they played the Texans, right? We'd say probably a bottom 3 team in the league. I think we'd agree. They beat the Ravens, who middle of the road team right now. They've been playing some pretty bad football. Then they beat the Jets, so a bottom 3 team, we would say. They beat the Panthers, a bottom 10 team easily. They beat the Giants, a bottom 5 team probably, and they beat the Jets, a bottom 3 team again. So they haven't beat anyone that's ranked in like the top 15 of the NFL in these last 6 games. They play the Saints on Monday night with Ian Book probably starting at quarterback. So it's going to be another horrible game and a horrible offense that they're playing against. So, I mean, hopefully the Dolphins can continue their winning streak at least through next week.
Yeah, for sure. Next game, we got the Cowboys versus the Giants NFC East game. Mike Lennon started the game and
did not finish the game.
Georgia.
Stud.
I can't think of his name.
Jake Fromm
ended the game. But yeah, it was another bad game for the Giants. Saquon had a few good moments in that game though. Where it was kind of promising. He had a heck of a catch. And yeah, I mean, the Cowboys squeaked by that game for sure.
Yeah, I mean, Mike Lennon sucks. Mike Lennon threw 3 interceptions and 90 yards. I don't know if you saw the stat that came out. Mike Lennon's career earnings, he's made $32 million in his career with how bad he's been, which is insane. He had a couple of good games with the Buccaneers a few years back, and that basically made him $25 million right there. But he's terrible. He should not be in this league. The Cowboys won, but it was not pretty. They won 21-6. Giants offense can't do anything. Saquon needs a change of scenery. The Giants run blocking is horrible, and I feel like it's ruining Saquon. And I need to know if Saquon's actually not that good or if it's all the Giants' fault. I need to know before he gets past his prime.
Yeah. Well, the way he's gotten injured and just not playing as well, I'm sure he won't make it too much longer as a Giant. But yeah, I mean, the Cowboys, you said it was kind of an underwhelming performance. Their offense just hasn't been that good. Dak Prescott's been much worse than he was to start the year. But after his injury, after the Vikings played the Cowboys, Dak came back. They just were underwhelming, and yeah, I mean, the Cowboys just haven't been the same dominance. They keep winning because they're in a bad division, but
and their defense is really good.
Yeah,
I did not think I'd say that about the Cowboys this year, but their defense has been great, and that can be attributed to really young players in Parsons and Diggs.
Yeah, for sure. Moving on to the next game, we got the Bengals versus the Broncos. Another not great game and bad injury game as Teddy Bridgewater left in a scary hit to the hospital. He is okay. He's been released. It's just a concussion, but yeah, Teddy with a scary moment.
Yeah, he got destroyed in like the back of the neck, and he was just laying there on the field, which is something that Minnesota Vikings fans have seen with it. He's got knocked out in a preseason game. No, not a preseason game. We played the Rams one year and he got knocked out, and it was very scary. And then, I mean, Teddy just has the worst shit happen to him. I feel like he gets a concussion every other week. I feel for the guy because we all know the person that Teddy Bridgewater is. Everyone roots for him, and he just doesn't have luck on his side.
Yeah, for sure. And then the other thing notable in this game, the Bengals they still keep going on, and Joe Burrow's been pretty good. But the thing about the thing notable is Jamar Chase. He's kind of regressed from that historic start he had. He looked like he was going to beat all of Justin Jefferson's records and maybe more. But now he's really slowing down. He might have only had a catch in this game.
Yeah, he had one catch for 3 yards. He hasn't gotten over 100. He's only gotten over 100-yard receiving 3 times this season, and he hasn't gotten past the 100-yard mark since it looks like week 7 or something, week 8. So he's definitely declined a little bit as of late. I don't know if that's just he hit the rookie wall or what's happening there, but Jamar Chase has not been putting up the numbers that he had at the beginning of the year.
For sure. It's been the T. Higgins and
Tyler Boyd
show. And moving on to the next game, the Falcons versus the Bengals won that game. The Falcons versus the 49ers. 49ers handled this game pretty easily. The Niners, they're pretty good. I mean, they started off very slow. I can't say they really got healthier. They just kind of got better.
Yeah, Nick Bosa is back, which is huge. He's a huge key to their defense. They're good. They're definitely a playoff caliber team. I'd say that the playoff caliber teams in the NFC right now are the top 6 seeds. I mean, that's pretty easy to say, but Green Bay, Dallas, Tampa Bay, Arizona, LA, San Fran. I think those teams all deserve playoff spots. That 7th seed, whoever gets in there, does not deserve it. Even if the Vikings get in, they don't deserve the playoffs this year. They really don't. But San Fran's a team that's been playing their ass off the last month or so. And they had a hard loss last week to Seattle, but I think the Niners are a team that you don't really want to play if you're in the NFC playoffs because they're so good at running the football, and especially if Elijah Mitchell is back, they're a team that likes to run it down your throats, and there's really nothing you can do about it. For sure.
49ers handle the Falcons, who they're not that good of a team. Cordarrelle's kind of slowed down. The Falcons are just not very good. Kind of what we thought, but yeah, 49ers handle the Falcons. Move on to the Packers versus the Ravens. Tyler Huntley led Ravens because Lamar Jackson was out. The Packers almost lost to a very depleted Ravens secondary and backup quarterback line. Ravens.
Yeah, Packers pull out the win by 1. That game is close. Came down to the end. The Ravens did not get the 2-point conversion, which ended up losing the game for them, like it did a couple weeks ago. I mean, at this point, it's whatever. I know the Packers are going to finish in the top of the NFC, hopefully not the 1 seed, but the Packers are obviously in the playoffs already. They've clinched the North. As long as they continue to lose in the playoffs like they have for a while, I don't care. They just don't want them to play in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, the Ravens, it's kind of impressive how they played against Devonta Adams with really no cornerbacks. They lost all their cornerbacks prior to the game. And yeah, I mean, the Ravens are well coached. They just have some very large flaws, that's for sure. But yeah, Packers speak by that. Without going for the 2-point conversion, it could go into overtime, and then who knows what could happen.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Packers. Another thing I would point out, after they played the Vikings, the Packers defense has looked very beatable. They're one of the top defenses this season in the NFL. They played us. We had a good game against them, and since then they have not looked great. I think we maybe exposed something in the Packers defense. They let up 30 points to the Ravens with the backup quarterback. Jair Alexander is set to return soon from his injury. He's been injured since like week 2 or 3 or something. So he's their best defensive player, and he's been out all season. So they'll obviously improve when he comes back. But the Packers right now are probably prone to be beat and are due to be beat soon, maybe by the Vikings again next week. But their defense is not the caliber it was like 5 weeks ago.
Yeah, I mean, they got kind of scorched by Justin Fields and the Bears as well.
Yeah,
But yeah,
they
Packers
did.
definitely. They have their special teams is horrendous as well. They have
Terrible.
flaws
It's
too.
like the Vikings special teams last year.
Yeah, it seems like every week there's a big mistake, but yeah, the Packers squeak by. Luckily, not having to go overtime against the Ravens, backup quarterback led Ravens, but Saints versus the Broncos next game.
Buccaneers.
Saints versus the Buccaneers next game. The Saints just kind of own the Buccaneers. I mean, I know it's a division game, but it seems like the Saints win every time. They always
They beat them twice. The Saints aren't that good this year, and they beat the Buccaneers twice. Tom Brady scores 0 points. All I have to say for the Buccaneers, this is the Saints' hardest game left on their schedule. They're in the NFC playoff race. If they lose this game, they're most likely they have a very small chance of making the playoffs. So I wasn't scared by the Saints competing for a playoff spot with us. And then Tom Brady goes out there, lays a goose egg at home against the Saints. Taysom Hill couldn't do anything. They scored 9 points, but the Buccaneers were so bad they scored 0. Saints win against the Buccaneers again. It just pissed me off. Makes me hate the Buccaneers.
The Saints never knew how much they owned Tom Brady until he came into their division. But yeah, I don't even think maybe Tom Brady's beat him once, because Tom Brady's first game as a Buccaneer was against the Saints, and the Saints destroyed him week 1, and then they might have beat him then, but this year they haven't beat him at all. So I don't know. Saints they apparently own the Buccaneers since Tom Brady gets there. And yeah, I just thought of something. I really want a Buccaneers Patriots Super Bowl, and I think that's going to happen. It's just inevitable.
I don't think it is though. Because
it's a script the NFL wants.
The rookie quarterbacks don't make the Super Bowl, and I don't know. We saw Mac Jones under some like Mac Jones in a close game against Indy this week, and it was not great. And they couldn't really run the football, and they kind of fell apart on offense. But yeah, I see why you say that would be a good script. I just don't want it. I need someone other than Tom Brady in the Super Bowl. At some point, it just gets redundant, and I want to see something else. But I don't know. That'll probably happen. So if it's not the Packers, I guess I'll take Tom Brady in the Super Bowl.
It's probably either Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers this year. But moving on, we got the Raiders versus the Browns. Not really a great game. A lot of COVID issues for the Browns. They had their third string Nick Mullins playing. We know Nick Mullins from the 49ers day. He's a showdown legend. He always seemed to play some primetime games. It was odd, but yeah, I mean, Daniel Carlson, another game winner. He's pretty much the best kicker in the league, and the Vikings really missed out.
Yeah, Derek Carr was talking about Daniel Carlson in the post game, and he's like, "Yeah, we knew he was going to make that kick," and it just hurt to listen to, because that you can hear the confidence they have in him, and they just paid him a big sum of money to be their kicker because he's been one of the best in the NFL since the Vikings cut him. Yeah, it just hurts. I mean, it happens. Matt Gay did it. Matt Gay was awful with the Buccaneers, goes to the Rams, and now he's excellent. So. I mean, it's not just a Vikings thing, but it hurts to see you finally drafted a good kicker, but a couple really bad weeks with us made us cut him, and now he's good.
Yeah, pretty much all to talk about for the Raiders-Browns game. A lot of issues going on with the Browns health-wise. But yeah, moving on to the Seahawks versus the Rams. Cooper Kupp, another monster day. Cooper Kupp's got to be one of the best wide receivers in the NFL now, and having one of the best receiving years ever.
Yeah, he had another 9 catches, I believe, for 136 and 2 touchdowns in this game. Like, teams can't stop Cooper Kupp. He works out of the slot, so it's a little bit harder to stop a guy like that when your number one corner typically works on the outside. So Kupp is just kind of having his way. They throw it to him a lot, and a lot of the times too, it's just like they use Cooper Kupp as a running back in a way. Not that they hand it off to him, but they throw him like quick short 4 or 5 yard routes on first down to like kind of like simulate what a successful running play would get on first down. This is something I've noticed about the Rams offense. But yeah, Kupp has been incredible. He just seems to keep racking up the catches, the yards, the touchdowns. He has a chance to beat Michael Thomas's single season catch record, which Thomas broke, I think, 2 years ago. So keep an eye on that as the season wind down. The Vikings play him this week, so hopefully Kupp does not continue his stretch of amazing football.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, another thing in that game is just Russell Wilson just has not been good. It's the first time the Seahawks will end the season under 500 since he was drafted to the Seahawks. So Russell Wilson's part of the problem right now. I'm not sure what's going on with him. DK has not been as good as he was last year or to start the year. Either way, but yeah, the Rams take care of the Seahawks. Seahawks are pretty much out of contention. Thank goodness for that. Moving on, we have the football team. If it's the Eagles, Garrett Gilbert is the football team's quarterback right now because of COVID issues again with the football team. And it did not work as the Eagles pretty much handle Washington.
Yeah. Washington got up to like a 10-point lead, but the whole time I wasn't really scared. If you're not following the playoff race closely, we needed Washington to lose this game. I wasn't really scared that Washington was going to win just because their offense still really hadn't done much. It was more so on Eagles' offensive mistakes, turnovers, and such. And yeah, that ended up being the case. The Eagles ran away with it. And the Eagles push ahead of Washington in the playoff race. Eagles are now 7-7. Washington's 6-8. We got a lot of teams. If you've been following what we've just been saying, like there's a lot of teams we have to watch. If you want the Vikings to get in the playoff, we still got we control our destiny, but we still have an uphill battle because there's a lot of teams that are waiting to pounce if we drop a game here.
For sure. It's very, very, very close. And speaking of that, let's get into a big game this week. The Minnesota Vikings take on the Los Angeles Rams. Let's get right into the offense. The Vikings offense has been struggling and getting bad news where Dalvin Cook is going to be out maybe for 2 weeks. So yeah, Dalvin Cook going on the COVID protocol. We don't have Dalvin Cook for a very big game, which is very concerning against the number one run defense in the Rams. I really don't know where we can exploit them. I don't know if you do.
No, I really don't. I was going through like stats on the Rams defense and trying to find areas where they're weak. They really don't have many. Their passing offense or passing defense has been very good this season. Jalen Ramsey is one of the top cornerbacks in the NFL. Darius Williams, I think, is opposite of him. He's having a fine year. Aaron Donald, interior pass rusher. Leonard Floyd's been a great pass rusher on the outside. And if I can think of anything, it's their linebackers aren't the best. Their linebackers aren't the greatest. So if you can somehow find a way, Tyler Conklin, he's going to have, matchups with linebackers much of the game, being a tight end. Tyler Conklin is going to need to play well. But yeah, the Rams defense is just solid all around. So we've got to be playing our best football in all aspects of this game, especially on the offensive line if we want to have a chance.
That kind of covers the where can we struggle too. It's the fourth best run D. I thought it was the best. So yeah, I mean it's a great run D, and we have Alexander Madison back, which is good. It would have been if Madison was still out. It would have been Kene Nwangu and something Rose, the guy that
AJ Rose.
Yeah, because we don't
do look on, but yeah, it's
your mic disconnected.
Yeah.
All right, and go.
Yeah, they just it's just the running game. Dalvin was a big piece to have here just because he's one of our best offensive playmakers. And we're playing a really good NFC team in a game we need to win. So when you're missing a guy like that, it's obviously hurts. We've seen this team play well with Dalvin out in the past. So it's not the end all be all, but it's definitely a place we hurt when we're playing a very good Rams team.
Something, if I was a out of Vikings fan, something I'm excited to watch is the first ever meet between Justin Jefferson and Jalen Ramsey. It's going to be a battle. I mean, one of the best wide receivers in the game is against probably the best corner in the game. Yeah, I'm kind of excited to see that. But yeah, it could still be where the Vikings could struggle as well, though. But yeah, that's going to be cool.
Vikings assistant coach, defensive coordinator, co-defensive coordinator, D-line coach Andre Patterson has tested positive for COVID. Love that. All right. Vikings defense. Speaking of Vikings defense and Vikings defensive coordinators, the Vikings defense, where can we exploit the very good, very spread out in terms of talent, Rams offense?
Well, the Rams, they're very stacked. But man, they turn the ball over a lot for being such a dynamic offense. Matthew Stafford isn't afraid to air the ball out to anybody, especially OBJ now, who he has someone else he can, send the ball deep to, and he's created a lot of turnovers for the Rams offense. And they haven't been perfect. They've been very good, but they haven't been perfect.
Yeah, no, Stafford's had a couple bad games this year. They didn't look great against the Seahawks this week. Like, they're not a juggernaut. They're very, very good offense, but they're not unstoppable. Our defense is obviously going to have to play well. Our defense has not been great. Our defense needs to step up if we want to beat a team of this caliber. But the Rams have areas on offense where they haven't always been consistent. And we're at home this week. So, Vikings fans, if you're going to the game, be extra loud because we need the home field advantage. This game is the most important to this point of the season. We need that home field advantage to give ourselves a better chance in this game, and it does exist. The home field advantage does exist. The offensive communication is very obviously disrupted by a very loud crowd, a crowd that's into it, and the players also, home players also get a lot more into it when their fans are screaming at the top of their lungs. So home field advantage, we need to take advantage of this one in US Bank Stadium this weekend.
For sure. So some spots where we can struggle. I mean, obviously you got OBJ against probably Patrick Peterson, who had a very good game against the Bears. You got him. You got Robert Woods. Wait, he's out. He tore his ACL. You got Van Jefferson. You got maybe Cam Akers. But the most important is you got Cooper Kupp in the slot. And our slot corner has not been great this year. Mackenzie Alexander. He's been very streaky, and he's going up against a very tough opponent in Cooper Kupp. So that's yeah.
Yeah, Cooper Kupp, we talked about him a lot in this episode, but Cooper Kupp is incredible. We're not going to stop him. The way they use Cooper Kupp, we're not going to stop him. We're not going to hold Cooper Kupp to 2 catches for 30 yards. It's just not going to happen. So we need to find a way. We need to find a way to limit the explosive plays, limit Cooper Kupp in the red zone from allowing us to beat us there, because we've seen Cooper Kupp at his best, and him at his best is a Rams offense that cannot be stopped. So we'll see. The Rams very spread out. They had the most 40-plus yard plays in the NFL. They're in first with 17. The next closest team has 11. So that just shows you how explosive the Rams offense has been this year. We can't let them get big plays. That's where they thrive. Long shots down the field. good players to do that as well. So keep the top on the defense because we can't allow big plays because then they're just going to blow us out of the water.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I mean the Vikings Rams going to be should be a very exciting game. All the way around, very nerve-wracking game, and probably come down to a one-score game either way, as it always does. That's the funny thing about that Monday night game is the Vikings, they were up by a couple scores, and they had the Bears march down the field. Whether it's a touchdown or not, the Bears made it a one-score game. It wasn't like a nail-biter one-score game because it was the last play, and it probably wasn't a touchdown, but it's just kind of funny how they still always make it a one-score game. But let's get into our Week 16 picks. Week 15 went the way of me again. Oh, we tied. Excuse me. We tied. I'm still on top though. 129.5 to 127.5. Still very close in our matchup. But let's get into Week 16.
All right. We start with this. I worded this wrong, but the first game is tonight. Hold on. Yep, first game's tonight. 49ers Titans.
I got the Titans in this game. I don't know. I might not be a 49ers believer quite yet.
I also have the Titans. I think.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's very surprising when you know my opinions on the Niners and the Titans. Maybe this is just optimistic me wanting a Titans win for the Vikings playoff to help the Vikings playoff chances, but I think the Titans grab one here with AJ Brown back. Next game we got Browns Packers on Christmas.
I mean, I don't know if the Browns are going to be healthy, and even if they are, you got to go Packers.
Yeah, I also have the Packers. I mean, the Browns haven't looked great even with players out. So and they're going into Green Bay, hard place to win, especially in December. So I'm almost taking the Packers. Colts Cardinals.
I'm gonna go Colts here. I still believe in the Cardinals. I think. I guess I don't. I don't know. I think I do, but I'm still going to go Colts.
Yeah, I have the Colts. I just love what I saw from the Colts against the Patriots, and I think that hopefully that they can continue that because I don't know. I just like watching the Colts. We move to Sunday. We got Lions Falcons.
I got the Falcons in this game. I wanted to pick the Lions. I really, really did. But I'm going to go Falcons.
I also have the Falcons. I mean, it just seems weird that the Lions would win 2 straight, considering they have 2 wins on the season. I also have the Falcons, even though I hate them. Then we go to Jaguars Jets. I feel like the Jaguars always play the worst teams. They play the Jets this week.
They always play the worst teams, and they always lose to the worst teams. That's why I have the Jets picking to win.
They do. I also have the Jets. I think that the Jaguars want to hold on to that number 1 pick spot. Not that they could win anyways, but I think they lose this one. Giants Eagles.
I have the Eagles in this game. The Giants, I don't know who their quarterback's going to be. So,
I mean, the Giants are just awful right now. They can't score any points. So I also have the Eagles. Bills Patriots.
I'm going to go Bills. I still think the Patriots own the Bills franchise. I think they're a part owner, but I'm going to go Bills. Maybe a bounce back kind of thing because they just have not been good the last few weeks.
Yeah, I'm going to go Patriots here. I thought they were going to split, but I also thought they were going to split with the Bills winning at home and the Patriots winning at home. Then the Patriots go into Buffalo and win. I'm going to take the Patriots here. I think they win this game in Foxborough against their division rival and continue to own them. Ravens Bengals.
Man, I can't trust the Ravens right now, especially with the division opponent. And the Bengals might be healthier, so I'm going to go Bengals.
I also have the Bengals, two inconsistent teams. Ravens playing some football right now. I have the Bengals, but I don't feel great about it. Chargers, Texans.
Chargers.
Yeah, Chargers. The Texans are playing a little bit better. Davis Mills has been a little bit better, but I think the Chargers are just too much for them. Buccaneers, Panthers.
I have the Buccaneers. Panthers are just not good.
Yeah, Buccaneers got embarrassed against the Saints. I don't think they get embarrassed again. Bears, Seahawks.
I have the Seahawks. It could be like a kind of feel better game for Russell Wilson, just coming off a very poor performance.
I have the Seahawks as well. I mean, we've seen the Bears play football against the Vikings' worst game of the season, and we still beat them by 8 points. So I have the Seahawks. Broncos, Raiders.
This was a tough one. I'm gonna go Raiders here. They just keep
To win some games.
I went with the Broncos. I just like how the Broncos defense has been playing. They've been playing so well, and they're playing the Raiders, who they are coming off a big win, an emotional win. I think the Broncos basically knocked the Raiders out of the playoff contention this week. Next game, we got Steelers, Chiefs.
I mean, I can't pick against the Chiefs right now. It's back to them being dominant. So I'm going to go Chiefs.
I also have the Chiefs because, I mean, we've seen the Steelers play as well, and they don't look great. Their defenses can't stop the run, and their offense has Ben Roethlisberger. I don't know how they're 7-6-1 right now because they don't look like a 7-6-1 team. The Chiefs exposed them this week. Then we got Washington, Dallas.
I'm going to go Cowboys here. I think if Washington was all healthy, I think they could beat the Cowboys. But I'm going to go.
So Heineke came off the COVID list today.
Okay. I'm still going to go Cowboys.
I also have the Cowboys. I do agree. I think Washington, this is a game that they could win. And if they lose this one, it kind of shuts the door on their playoff hopes for the most part. Yeah, I'm taking the Cowboys. Then we ended off with Monday night, Dolphins, Saints. Saints will likely be missing Taysom Hill on Monday, and Trevor Siemian's out too. So that would mean rookie Ian Book, you might remember him from Notre Dame, is in line to start.
Yeah, I think that's a lie because Ian Book still plays for Notre Dame, like the last 20 years. So. But I'm going to go Dolphins here. I really like Ian Book. I mean, he was a fun college quarterback to watch and all, but I'm still going to go with the Miami Fins.
I'm taking the Saints. We saw the Saints defense against the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers scored 0 points. They're obviously not going to keep the Dolphins to 0 points because, I mean, that doesn't happen 2 weeks in a row, but the Dolphins, not a great offense. The Saints at home, their defense has been playing well. They've been winning with Taysom Hill playing horribly. It's not like he's been that great for them. So I'm going to take the Saints here.
Wow, that surprises me. But yeah, that's all for our picks. Some shockers, some upsets. We got a very kind of exciting week ahead. With all this COVID stuff, COVID like protocols and players out, it's making these football games a lot less fun to watch. But hopefully they get better. Let's get into our Week 15 Vikings predictions. You go first with your score prediction.
Oh God. Okay. Looking at these two teams, Vikings and the Rams. I think the Rams' strengths are lined up perfectly with the Vikings' weaknesses. Aaron Donald is a player that we struggle with because our interior offensive line sucks. Our offense runs through Dalvin Cook, who's out, and Justin Jefferson, who has the matchup with Jalen Ramsey. So I just think that the Rams are built to beat us. I have the Rams winning 33-20.
That's fair. I have the Rams winning 28-20. Yeah, I just don't think this could be a pretty game, but I've been wrong every time I think the Vikings are going to get blown out. So,
Your hot take.
So, how many yards does Cooper Kupp need to break the record?
How many yards? I don't think he's breaking a yardage record.
Or catches, catch. How many catches
Here,
does he need?
I can look it up. I don't think there's any chance of him beating it this week.
Okay, then I'll stick with my Aaron Donald 4 sacks against the Vikings this week.
So Michael Thomas had 149 catches. That's the record. Yeah. Cooper Kupp has 122. So he would need 27 catches in this game.
I think I'm going to go Cooper. No, I'll stick with
Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp for 27 catches. Aaron Donald 4 sacks. Oh, God. That would be a miserable day. Mine is the Vikings allow less than 70 yards rushing. So between Sony Michel, Darrell Henderson, Cam Akers, if he plays, under 70 yards rushing. I got one right, Jackson.
So did I.
I got one right against the Bears. Wait, what'd you get? What was yours?
We didn't do a podcast last week, but I got KJ Osborne getting over 80-yard receiving against the Steelers.
Oh, then I didn't get one right. I didn't even think about that because mine was the Vikings forced 3 turnovers, and I forgot we didn't do a podcast last week. So we forced 3 turnovers this week, but last week against the Steelers, we only forced 1. So I didn't get one right. Damn. I thought I was finally get on the board. I did not. I'm back down to 0. Very depressing. You've got a 2-0 lead. The most dangerous lead in hockey. So
that's very
you never
true.
know. With a couple weeks left, I could come back. But that'll wrap it up for this week's podcast. We got Vikings Rams the day after Christmas. It's a big game for the Vikings for the playoff hopes. So everyone be watching that game and hope that the Vikings can come away with a win against an NFC opponent.
And as always,
you like that.